Every entrepreneur has a moment or a series of moments that leads them to become who they are meant to be. I call these moments intuitive turning points. I'm Dr. Meg Hayworth, and I am the host of Intuitive Turning Points. Come join us for stories of successful entrepreneurs who have gone through the journey. These entrepreneurs have accomplished so many things in their lives. I will have best-selling authors, TEDx speakers, people who've created successful businesses as an entrepreneur. It doesn't happen overnight. And as I always say, entrepreneurship is a personal development journey. And it takes time to develop yourself into the person you're meant to be, to help other people become who they're meant to be. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. My guest on Intuitive Turning Points today is Raewyn Guerrero. She is known as the Gutsy Executive Coach. She's committed to helping high-performing women connect the dots of their burnout symptoms and guide them to playing all out in their lives. Because when you get the body right, the brain will follow. And after years of chasing symptoms in the conventional medicine world to address her own anxiety and irritable bowel syndrome, which I had too, she discovered the evidence-based systems biology framework of functional medicine and functional diagnostic nutrition. This approach reveals how the gut is connected to the brain, to hormones, to the skin, to pretty much all health. She's been featured in the Huffington Post, the CW Network, and on numerous podcasts discussing a nutrition and psychology approach for sleep, panic attacks, and anti-aging. She's a featured author in the #1 international best-selling book, Corporate Dropouts. By offering a personalized roadmap for how to eat, think, sleep, and move through the insights gained from functional labs, she's set to change the face of healthcare and create a well world. Please welcome Raewyn Guerrero to Intuitive Turning Points. Raewyn Guerrero, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for hosting and for giving me this opportunity to share.
Yeah, you're so welcome. You're one of those people that when I met you, I just clicked with you right away. And I always pay attention to that, just from an intuitive standpoint, the connection that you feel with another individual. And so you told me a little bit about your story, but can you let us know what intuitive turning point moment or series of moments led you to do what you're doing today?
Yeah, a fabulous way to start this conversation. And I felt the exact same way when I met you. Like I felt like this very natural affinity, and I go with that. I go with energy. I follow it. So this question is so poignant because I've been thinking a lot about well, how did I really get here? And there were a series of moments, but probably the most recent of those moments was in January of 2016. It's the coldest winter that I could remember. I was living in London. I'd been there at that point for about, I think, 15 years. And I was completely depleted, completely drained. And my boyfriend at the time, who I was living with, he took a photo of me in the hallway of my apartment as I was heading out to work that morning, dragging myself out the door. And he showed me this photo and he says, "I want you to remember what you look like." And he's like, "You look so unhappy. You just look so depleted, so drained, so gaunt. All my zest for life had evaporated." And this reflection of me, was just totally horrific. And I started wondering oh my God, am I going to be stuck like this forever? Is this going to be my life? In this rat race with this commute, having to get to a desk for a certain time. And all the while, my stomach is in knots. I have issues. I had a lot of issues with panic, a lot of issues with anxiety, being micromanaged in a really toxic corporate environment. And it was, I could barely eat, and anything that I did eat would just make me react. So I pretty much felt nauseous and sick all the time. And then the anxiety was the thing that was just making life even worse. So even before I was fully awake, I'd wake up in a panic, my breath would be caught in my throat. And it was that moment with the photo was what woke me up to the fact that I couldn't continue in that way. And, I wasn't free in my body. I wasn't
Yeah.
free in my mind. I felt like I was drowning, like I was taking on water. I was trying to manage this home, trying to manage, stuff going on with him, trying to manage this career. I didn't feel valued by my peers. I didn't feel valued by management. And I was giving so much of myself for so little recognition. And, the career had strained my relationship.
Mhm.
I realized like I was just always one crisis away from falling apart. And even though I was trying to eat vegan, trying to be,
Oh my
I was doing
gosh.
all the things that I thought, eating low
Right.
fat, eating vegan, but everything I thought was right to get my health back, and all on
Mhm.
my own, not necessarily doing it with any real guidance. Just, doing my own research and stuff and listening to my doctors. I had a number of specialists,
Yeah.
but I didn't have any confidence that I could heal myself or that they could heal me, because everything that they'd been suggesting hadn't been working. All the scans, everything that came back saying, oh, this is all normal. I'm like,
Right.
but
Right.
I'm
You're
not,
fine.
I'm like, I don't feel
Yeah.
fine. And I really, like I said, I panicked about the fact that this is going to be my life. Like I'm going to be on medication and I'm going to be, it
Yep.
was only in
Yeah.
2016, I was only 37. I
Yes.
hadn't quite turned 37
Yeah.
yet. I hadn't even
Wow.
turned 37 yet. It was about a month before my 37th birthday. So my big turning point was that selfie. And about 2 weeks later, I
Yeah.
broke my foot. So
Oh my goodness.
So
Okay.
I don't know if anybody knows anything about like energy, and
Yes.
if your listeners are connected to the fact that certain
Yeah.
body parts are related to spiritual, they have metaphysical meanings, and
Exactly.
breaking an ankle was about changing direction. I paid
Yes. Moving
attention.
forward.
Yeah,
You're
you have to like
understanding.
stop and
Yes.
pay attention. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I broke my ankle. Now I'm literally grounded. I can't go anywhere. I can't rush from one thing to the next thing. I have to sit with myself and figure out what happens next, take back
Yeah.
control. I needed to get back in control of my health, of my mind, of my life, of where everything was going. I knew I was not with the right person, but I'd just kind of been continuing in that space, and it wasn't
Yeah.
healthy, even though he did a really good thing with that photo,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. No
it did
kidding.
start waking me up. So you asked
Yeah.
what was it's like a series of moments. Is
Yeah.
all of this happened in very quick succession. It was like first week of January. By the third week of January, I had a broken foot. Within a couple of weeks, my grandmother passed away. And all of these things
Oh my
happened to be, and
gosh.
when someone you love passes away that you're very
Mhm.
close to, it was like, okay, wake up call. Like, what are you doing with your life? Why are you living this way? Life is short. Why are you putting up with this
Yeah.
substandard relationship, this job that's sucking the life out of you?
Yeah.
So I needed a solution.
Yeah.
And
And there's so many
yeah.
people that are in this situation, where they just feel completely drained from the jobs that they're doing. And from the outside, it looks like, oh my gosh, she has this amazing job. She's so successful. She's working with this corporation. She's living in London. She's
Mm-hmm.
doing all these incredible, she's got this great boyfriend, all these things. But on the inside, you're really just imploding. There are a lot
Imploding,
of
and
people
all
in
the
that
physical stuff
space.
that was going on with it as
Yeah.
well, that I don't think people realize. Like they think, oh well, it's just your mental health, and I'm like, no, but my body was
Yeah.
reacting. My body was breaking down. Like we had been trying to get pregnant at that point too, and it wasn't happening. Like I mean, and
Mm.
that's obviously a blessing now that I see, but at the time, because I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't have wanted to stay tied to that person for the rest of my life.
Yes.
But at that time, I was thinking like a baby's going to be my solution to being happy. Like I'll be happy when I have a baby, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't, my body was just not playing ball with me, because I was in this constant state of fight or flight, constant. So when you're in that elevated cortisol, your
Yeah.
hormones don't work, your gut doesn't work, you don't digest food, you don't break it down, you don't. And I thought, I'm eating all these vegetables, like I must be really healthy, and
Yeah.
being low fat and being a low fat vegetarian. I wasn't actually a vegan, I was a vegetarian, but I'm so afraid of fat. Like I thought fat was like the devil. So
So many people think that. We
yeah,
learn
just
differently when we get into this work, don't we?
yeah, years of conditioning, like thinking like, oh, this is really bad for you, and not wanting to eat meat and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I needed a plan that was custom made for me, because I've been going along with fad diets, going along with stuff that the gastroenterologist said, And none of it was personalized. None of it was tailor-made. All of it was just very cookie cutter. And
Mhm.
I see so many of my clients doing the exact, by the time they come to me, they've seen 5 or 6 different
Yeah.
practitioners and specialists, and they show up saying, but this person said I should do a low FODMAP. This person said I should take this ashwagandha. They said I should do it. And I said, but do you even know if like you can tolerate that? Like, are you
Right.
absorbing it? Like, do you know if this is right
Yeah.
for you? And they
Mhm.
don't, and
No.
they've never worked with anybody who sort of works the way that I do now. So yeah, my big turning point was like, I need to become functional. Like I need to figure out how do I, because I was surviving, but I was nowhere near like optimal, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that you use the word functional because then that's what you did is you got into functional nutrition, functional
Mm-hmm.
medicine to help you help yourself and then to help others, which is really beautiful. So let's go back to the moments though that all of this happened and these turning points in your life, and tell us about your intuition in those moments. Did you feel really connected to it? Do you feel like it sort of like swooped in and kind of told you like, go this way, go that? Like, how did you experience your intuition in those moments?
You know, what was really beautiful about that entire year of 2016 was that I was very, very connected to things like affirmations, mantras, meditation. I
Mm,
was reading Gabby Bernstein at the time, The Universe Has Your Back. And, you know, I was faced with the fact that my job was not making me happy, like it was making me sick. Of course, lots of other things were too. It wasn't just that. Like there's everything in my life basically needed to change. Like
yeah.
I'd been sort of on a trajectory where I'm like, okay, I need, and thinking like, you know what needs to happen next is that I get, in my head, like, I need to get promoted. I need to, and I'm telling myself I need to
Right.
climb this corporate ladder. I need to da da da. And by the time 2016 had rolled around, became very evident, like maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, because I had been playing out, let's say, my parents' roles, things that they
Yes.
wanted from me. Right. I was
Yeah.
playing out somebody else's dreams, like what they thought was
Right.
what success looked like. You got the apartment, you got the degrees, you got the vice president job, you're going to become a director next, like those are all the things that this
Yeah.
is what you're supposed to do, like this is how life is supposed to flow.
Right.
And by the time it's 37, like should be having a baby, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And I was trying to follow someone else's path but not mine.
Yes, exactly. This is so important. And so many people are doing exactly that. And they're completely disconnected from their own true path and purpose in their own hearts and their intuitive guidance system, because it's all one thing. That's all one thing, you know?
Exactly. And
And
I love that you've just brought that up about your internal GPS, because I talk about it a lot. I was like, well, where was my GPS leading me? It was leading me to where my mom wanted me to be, not where I
yeah,
wanted to be. you
yeah,
know my GPS wasn't set for where Raewyn's happiest or
yeah,
what's bringing her joy. Like I was doing what other
yeah.
people, what I thought would bring me joy, or what would be the equivalent to success or happiness. And
And, we're told that all of that will do that, that
mhm,
when you climb the corporate ladder and you get the better promotion and you get but it's all exterior, it's all this very egocentric way of viewing an individual
it's very
without asking
masculine.
the person, like,
Yeah.
what do you really want? What's in your heart?
I think that's such a valid point about what is it that you want, because no one really asks you that,
Yeah.
in marriages, relationships, even with jobs, they don't necessarily ask, well, what is it that you would like out of this experience? It's more like, well,
Yes.
here are your tasks and let's see if you can achieve them. And then you basically spend your entire life chasing a carrot, like a
Right.
dangling carrot, right?
Yeah. Play the
So
role, do
yes,
the thing. Yeah. It's
yeah. So
really, yeah.
it was a lot of wake up calls during that time. And you ask the question like, well, what was your intuitive guidance saying?
Yeah.
And my intuitive guidance was saying, like, when my grandmother died, I think that was probably the even bigger like slap in the face, is like, you are not happy and your life is going to pass you by. And what is your legacy going to be? What is your legacy going to be?
Ooh, big question. Okay, everybody who's listening, stop and ask yourself this question. Write it down. That's a journal prompt. What is
Yeah.
your legacy going to be?
What is your legacy going to be? I said, is it
It's
going to be
huge.
me scrambling to climb some corporate ladder and being miserable and burnt out and sick and
Yeah.
struggling all the time to just stay afloat? Is that what my legacy is going to be? Or is it going to be about, oh my God, everybody who met her, she brought joy. She brought joy to them.
Yeah.
She made them happier. She made, when you're around her, you're happier. You feel better. She's helped people. Because the thing about my corporate job,
Yeah.
which is interesting, was that I was a well-being manager. So I thought
It's so
initially,
fascinating, isn't it?
this is the
Because you're
killer.
like, well, I am in wellness already. So
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, this is going to be a great place for me to grow, to thrive. And it was such a cutthroat environment, and there was so little support in place. And there was a lot of politics. And, people always say,
Yeah.
oh my God, you had the dream job. I'm like, maybe like you said, on the exterior, it looked like it, but
Yeah.
internally, there was so much stuff going on beneath the surface that just made it really difficult. And I didn't feel like I was actually moving the needle on people's health at all. So when my own health tanked, when my own
Wow.
story became like, okay, this current setup, this medical model that I've been trapped in, that I've been trying to
Mhm.
promote to get people
Right.
thinking this isn't working for me. It's clearly not working for all of these other people either. So what will work and what does work? And luckily, again, this is the universe putting stuff in your path. Like the
Yeah.
osteopath who worked on site, she was training at the IFM. So she
Oh,
introduced
okay.
me to functional medicine. That was my
Uh-huh.
first sort of intro to functional medicine. So, and then that led to a whole bunch of other things. The GP that I'd been seeing, the general practitioner, he and I now work together. But at
Uh-huh.
that time, I'd been sick all the time. I kept going to see him. He kept saying, like, you have some things wrong with your immune system. You need to work on this. And he kept dropping little, he had 10 minutes with me for each appointment. So he couldn't really see me for longer than that. But he'd say, maybe you should start looking into the immunity and the immune system within your gut. And I said, the gut, what does that have to do with my immune system?
Yes.
And oh my God,
The
well,
lights start
that
going on. And
exactly. It's
let's
just like
think
all those
about
little
this for a
light
second.
bulbs.
Your
Mhm.
gut, your immune system, your gut, and your internal guidance system. Those
Mhm.
are all one thing. Your immune
Yep.
system, what I teach in my work is that's your inner child, that's your emotional body, you know?
Wow.
And so healing that emotional body, and you were just emotionally depleted, you know?
Completely. And, I had parents who were very good parents in terms of providing and making sure we went to the best schools and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
emotionally, those needs were very, very rarely met, particularly as a teenager when I started to develop my own identity. They didn't
Yeah.
want that. They didn't want to hear about it, didn't want to know it. It's like, you're supposed to behave this way. Why are you
Yes.
not falling in line? And there's
Right.
a lot of, and I have a very strong-willed personality.
Uh-huh.
I might seem quite mellow right now, but in
Yeah.
general, like, I know exactly what I want and I will
Mhm.
go for it, even if I've been subject to some conditioning along the way. But there'll
Yeah.
always be that dissonance, which is where I think illness comes in, because
Yes.
you're fighting against what you've been conditioned to do, and then what you really want to, what your heart and your
Yeah.
soul are calling you to do.
Yes.
And that's when you end up ill. I think that's when you become
Exactly.
quite unwell. And
That's
the
exactly what happened to
illness.
me as well. So I completely
Oh.
know this, and I see this in my practice all the time. When you are living your life for somebody else, you will be depressed, you'll be anxious, you'll be fearful, you'll be emotionally depleted,
Drained. That's it. The word is
strained.
drained, burnt
Yeah,
out. And
burnt out.
burnout is what I do now. Like, I help women with burnout, but
Yay!
addressing it from that gut brain standpoint, as well as from that psycho-emotional standpoint, because a lot of people think it's about willpower and it's about, like, oh, you have to have, mental fortitude. I'm like, yeah, but what fuels mental fortitude? Food. And what
Yes.
fuels food? Like, how well you absorb it. And if you're not absorbing it because you've got something wrong with you internally, like, you need to fix that. And then, of
Right.
course, there's that whole, it's a cycle, like, they
Mhm.
both impact each other. So your thoughts will impact the way that you're absorbing food. And then the way that you're absorbing food is going to impact the kind of thoughts that you're having and the types of foods that you're eating. Are you eating enough protein? Most people aren't. They're living on lots of carbs. They're having too many omega-6s. They're not doing, they're not eating good quality DHA, like high quality fish. And
Yeah.
so there's a whole education piece that I had to go through, and that
Yeah.
now I like saying I collapse that timeline for people, because for me it took me years,
Right.
but
Yes.
now I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can help you figure this out within as little
Yeah.
as 2 weeks. Like, in 2 weeks, we can figure out exactly what's wrong with you, why you are feeling the way you're feeling, and we're going to come up with a plan that is bespoke and custom made for you, so
Yeah.
that you can, and I'll help guide
Uh-huh.
you. So we create your roadmap, and we're going to guide you every step of the way, because people are like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. I've got to do all. I said, yeah, but you're not going to do it all at once.
No.
Martin Luther King said,
Incremental shifts.
yeah, don't look at the
Yeah.
staircase, just look at the first step.
Mhm.
And that's all we do. We just look at the first step, and every session builds on that. And you
Yeah.
get to where you need to be, which is, if you have to think of the staircase analogy, you're going to get to the top of the staircase, but it's not going to happen by you staring at it and thinking, crap, how do I get there?
Yeah,
Like, that's
exactly.
that's not going to help
Exactly.
you get there.
how much does your intuition play in your work today? Like you're working with a client, for instance, you're in session, and
Mhm.
how much of your intuition do you feel like comes into play in those moments?
God, I really think that I operate from a place of pure instinct in so many ways. Very, very much
Mhm.
have always gone with my gut.
Yeah,
And the times when I haven't gone with it, where I've tried to rationalize things, that's when I've always ended up in trouble.
yeah,
It's like because I've ignored and denied my voice, my inner voice, or God, or whoever, I've
yeah,
ignored it. So I think it's really important now, especially as I'm getting older,
yeah,
um, to really tune into that, because I'm like, you know what? This is wisdom. It's my inner wisdom. It's here. It's here to protect me. It's here to look after me. It's here, and anyone can tune into that. And by being
yes.
still, and we don't have enough of this.
Mhm.
Everyone's so busy going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing and the next party and the next thing and the next job, and we
Yeah,
don't stop enough. We don't pause enough. We don't build in moments throughout our day where we have time for reflect. And now I put
yeah,
in my calendar reflection time, like two
yes.
hours. I want
Yep,
2 hours of reflection time,
yeah,
because I need time to be still and to think and to feel like what's
right.
actually happening and
That's
tune in.
key right there. That's really what intuition, it operates on that feeling. And when you get disconnected from your feeling nature, it disconnects you from your internal guidance system, which disconnects you from you.
Yeah. And then it
That's it.
disconnects you from the direction that you think you want your life to take, because,
Yeah.
if you're not tuned into that, then it's like you set yourself off on a path, but you have no idea where you're really going. So where are you going to end up? Nowhere.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like going
Exactly.
around in circles and not
The
necessarily
hamster
getting to.
wheel. Yeah, totally.
So yeah, so how much does it play a part? I would say
Yeah.
100%. You
Awesome.
know, a hundred
Awesome. I love
percent.
that.
Like it's such a big part of every. I have so many stories about how I've ended up here, because I grew up on an island in the Caribbean, and I
Yeah.
moved to
Wow.
the UK when I was 20, just after my 21st 22nd birthday, right after my 22nd, like a month after my 22nd birthday, and how that all played out, and then how I ended up staying in the UK, and how I ended up meeting my husband, who I'm married to now. Like
Yeah.
all of that was totally led by meditation, guidance, working with shamans, being conscious about what I wanted to create and setting intentions. So there's so much of that. Like I feel very much like I'm tuned into that. And of course, I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'm not the Dalai Lama or a guru or anything like that.
Yes.
Shit happens. Can I say shit?
Yeah.
It will happen. But it's never how much shit you've got to go through. It's like, well, how do you respond to it when it does happen? Are you going to stay
Exactly.
and wallow in it? Or are you going to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and be like, okay, what can I learn from that? What has it taught me? And I think all these illnesses that we see now, the mental ones, the emotional, the psycho-emotional, the physical, the Hashimoto's, the
Yep.
fibromyalgia, the neurodegenerative disorders, MS, Parkinson's, Lyme, all those sorts of things, they show up to get you to reconnect with your body, to reconnect with
Yes.
your purpose, to
I
reconnect with
completely
loving
agree.
yourself and loving your body.
I completely agree. Yay, we're on the same page
Well,
in all that regard.
that's why we
That's
connected
why.
that day, because
Yes.
it was like, oh, I see a soul sister. I felt it.
Yeah.
That day when we met, it's only a month ago, not even,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's coming up to like a month ago. And we just had like the most incredible conversation.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh my
absolutely.
God, I found my people.
Yes. I know. It's always so wonderful. Um, yeah. So today, though, you are doing, I love you've got your corporate dropouts thing there in the background. Tell us about corporate dropouts. Tell us what you're doing and how people can get in touch with you and work with you.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for plugging the book. So I
Oh,
contributed
yeah.
to this multi-author book called Corporate Dropouts. There is one other functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner who's featured in it as well. So we teamed up, and there are a couple other women who have almost identical stories where we've had histories of families who there's a lot of pressure to perform. You end up in jobs or roles that aren't necessarily really suited to who you are, and that your inner voice is, stamped out a lot of the time. And then something happens, something dramatic happens physically to you.
Yeah.
Either end up in a car crash, or you're the victim of a crime, or like abuse, or you end up in a situation with a job or a partner where you realize this is actually quite toxic, and my voice is being snuffed out, and I'm becoming sicker and sicker as a result.
Yeah.
So the book is essentially about sharing these stories of like going from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, and the pivotal moment. So I love that we started off with that, the moment that ignited that spark where you're like, I have to do something different. And what I do has got to be able to help people so that they don't go through the same thing. So it's turning that moment of pain, that moment of distress, into a message of hope, of empowerment, of ultimately just like, you can do anything if you decide, I deserve to be happy. When you realize that you deserve to be happy, and that you deserve to speak your own truth, and it's worthy of being heard.
Yes.
That's why I contributed to that book, because I felt like, well, I'm actually really proud about being a corporate dropout, because I did it for 10 years. And, I was in corporate for 10 years in central London at an investment bank.
Wow.
Yeah, a really long time. And, I saw a lot of things happen during that time. I was there during the subprime mortgage crisis when Lehman Brothers collapsed. And there's so much stuff that I feel like I could write a whole other book on that too.
Wow.
But
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
just
journey of self-discovery.
Yeah. The health fallout that must have caused among people who work there.
Yeah. There was stories of people coughing up blood in the bathrooms because they've been working for 48 hours straight, hadn't slept, and they're working on deals and mergers and all this crazy, crazy stuff. And of course, that's when my well-being job emerged immediately after all of that. So that all happened in 2008, 2009. And by 2009, 2010, I had pitched for the well-being role. So so it was an interesting time. I learned so much. And I think if we can always approach moments of adversity as, well, what is this here to teach me? Then we're going to be so much happier and less likely to fall into downward spirals or negative spirals. And I'm not saying to ignore them, because you have feelings, and if you feel crappy, own it. Feel crappy. Take the day, take a week, cry, do whatever you got to do, journal, get it out, talk to your best friend, talk about it ad nauseum to somebody who's willing to listen. Get it out of your system. But then, exactly. Pay someone to listen to it over and over. But then realize, okay, how do I bounce back from this? What's it here to teach me? How is this here to up level me? How is this going to take me to the next level of where I want to be in my life? So, that's essentially, the book was about that. It's this collection, like vignettes, these stories of these women, these 20 women, and myself included, about that. I'm working on my new book, which is a solo book, which is called Become the CEO of Your Health. And
awesome.
So
I love that.
It's all about empowerment, but sort of taking my story, so like a teaching memoir, taking my story and putting it into a format that people can actually go through for 90 days in the same way that they would work with me on a 90-day program one-to-one, but it being in like a workbook type format, interspersed with little splashes of recipes, stories, so
fantastic.
I'm excited about it. Like, I feel really happy. I feel like that's going to be my legacy, like leaving people something that, like, a literal, guidebook on how to navigate what's going on with your health and your mental health and your physical health, how to connect those dots.
That's wonderful. I love that. Yay. Oh my gosh. So, what's your website, or how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, great. So you can find me on well-works.co. So it's a WELL-WORKS.co. I'm on Instagram as the Gutsy Executive Coach, all one word. And Gutsy, obviously, because of the gut-brain connection, but also because I feel like I want to help people feel strong, particularly women, and to step into their power. So having chutzpah, or just being gutsy, in addition to the whole gut-brain connection.
Yes, and listening to your gut.
And listening,
it's the other level
gut.
of all of this.
Exactly. So. Listen to your gut. Get strong, be empowered. The whole message behind everything that I talk about is really about ownership. Taking back your ownership and owning your life, and don't keep handing it away to people who don't really have your best interests at heart. You do,
Yeah.
right? And you
Yeah,
know what you
exactly.
want. So yeah, that's how you can find me. You can connect on Instagram, or you can connect via the website. And I do have a free Facebook group that I think is
Oh,
really
okay, great.
useful. Yeah,
Mhm.
people can join that. There are about 550 members in it right now. It's pretty
Great.
active. Every month we host a master class. This month we're hosting one on minerals and metabolism. So looking at how you can balance your minerals to keep your thyroid happy
Oh,
as well,
great.
and how that helps things like anxiety as well. So there's a big focus on mental health in my
Yeah.
world,
Mhm.
but how the physical impacts the mental, because I do believe that if you get the body right, the brain will follow. And once the brain follows, then
Yes.
the mind follows.
Yes. Awesome. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for what you're doing in the world, for sharing your story with us. And um, just thank you for being here.
Thank you. Like, I've had such a good time, and I hope that this touches someone so that they can realize, oh wait, I'm not alone and there is hope.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that this information will help you get well now. Thank you so much for watching Intuitive Turning Points. I want you to go ahead and like the video, and please subscribe to my channel, and then ring the bell to get notifications of future episodes so that you can get the latest in Intuitive Turning Points, stories of successful entrepreneurs. I'm Dr. Meg Hayworth. Get your dose of inspiration right here on Intuitive Turning Points. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful for you.